Daniel loved driving at night. The open road, the cool air, and the absence of traffic made it the perfect time for long drives. He often took late-night trips just to clear his mind. One night, he was returning home from a weekend trip, cruising down a deserted highway surrounded by dense forests. His headlights barely pierced the darkness, and the only sound was the steady hum of the engine. As he rounded a bend, he saw something up ahead. A lone hitchhiker standing by the roadside, his thumb outstretched. Daniel hesitated. He never picked up strangers, especially at night, but something about this man made him uneasy in a way he couldn't explain. The hitchhiker was tall and thin, dressed in dark clothing, his face obscured by shadows. Against his better judgment, Daniel slowed down. As the car came to a stop, the hitchhiker leaned into the passenger window. "Need a ride?" Daniel asked cautiously. The man simply nodded and opened the door. Without a word, he slid into the passenger seat and shut the door. Daniel waited for him to say something, maybe a thank you, maybe where he was headed, but the man remained silent. His face was still hidden in the dim glow of the dashboard lights. After a few minutes of uncomfortable silence, Daniel cleared his throat. "So, where are you headed?" The hitchhiker slowly turned his head toward Daniel. "Just a little farther," he whispered in a voice so hollow it sent chills down Daniel's spine. Something about that voice wasn't right. It was too empty. Daniel kept driving, gripping the wheel tighter. The silence between them thickened. Every so often he stole glances at his passenger. The man sat eerily still, hands resting on his lap, his posture too rigid, as if he weren't entirely human. After what felt like an eternity, Daniel noticed something in the rearview mirror. At first, he thought it was a trick of the dim lighting, but as he stared, his breath caught in his throat. The hitchhiker's reflection wasn't there. Heart pounding, Daniel dared to look at his passenger again. The man was still there, sitting completely motionless, but now he was grinning, a wide, unnatural smile that stretched too far across his face. Daniel slammed on the brakes. "Get out," he shouted. The hitchhiker didn't move, his head tilted slightly, his grin widening. "You're going the wrong way," he whispered. Daniel's blood turned to ice. "The wrong way," he stammered. The hitchhiker nodded. "This road only leads one place." Daniel's stomach dropped. He hadn't seen another car, another sign, another exit in miles. He glanced at the fuel gauge. It was nearly empty. He hadn't noticed before, but it was as if the road had stretched on endlessly, leading him deeper and deeper into nowhere. Panicking, he threw the car into reverse, but the engine sputtered and died. The hitchhiker leaned in close, his voice barely audible. "You shouldn't have stopped." The headlights flickered. The air inside the car turned ice cold. The last thing Daniel saw was the hitchhiker's grin, growing impossibly wide, before everything went black. The next morning, Highway Patrol found Daniel's car on the side of the road, engine off, doors locked. He was missing. The only clue left behind was a single muddy footprint on the passenger seat.